Afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Tech Talk for Nonprofits. Today's session will be on Google Notebook LM. I'm going to give everybody a couple of minutes just to transition into the webinar before we get started. I'm going to go ahead and get started and kick us off with some introductions. My name is Sarah Sanford. I am the Director of Operations for NCW Tech Alliance. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization with a mission to bring people and technology resources together. We provide programs and services in technology, entrepreneurship, and STEM education across Chelan, Douglas, Grant, and Okanagan counties. We have some really exciting programs and events coming up at the nonprofit, so feel free to head to our website, ncwtech.org, to check out what we have on offer coming up. So Tech Talks for Nonprofits is a free quarterly webinar series brought to you by NCW Tech Alliance and NPI, the Nonprofit Practices Institute. Tech Talks are designed to provide valuable insights into various technology topics, and we want to hear from you. We want to know what topics are of most interest, so please feel free to use the QR code on screen or the short link just beneath it to submit your ideas and suggestions for future topics. The Nonprofit Practices Institute, or NPI, is here to help nonprofit organizations in North Central Washington strengthen their skills and grow their potential with affordable and accessible trainings, workshops, and networking opportunities. Claire couldn't be on the call today, but did want me to mention a really exciting offering coming up in March and April. So there is a grant writing essentials and grant management workshop happening in Wenatchee and OMAC. And this is hosted by NPI and Thriving Together NCW. And it is targeted to nonprofits located in Chelan, Douglas, Grant, and Okanagan counties. So the website is listed just below on screen. So if you're interested in learning more about that offering, feel free to check that out. Good. Now, without further ado, I would like to introduce our two guest speakers today presenting on Google Notebook LM. Unfortunately, our wonderful CEO, Dr. Sue Kane, couldn't be on the call live today, but she has recorded some video content that will play throughout the presentation today. But we do have our marketing director, David Mabee, who's going to be leading today's presentation. So I'll hand it over to you, David.
David Mabee, the marketing director here for NCW Tech Alliance. So we're going to go through today and introduce you to Notebook LM, which is just a fantastic tool for nonprofits, and it's going to be a different tool than some of the other LLMs, large language models you've used. Go ahead and advance that slide there, Sarah, please. So today, the goals are to introduce you to Notebook LM and explain how it can be a beneficial tool to your nonprofit or team. Compare Notebook LM to some of the other tools and explain the differences between them. Give you some key features to Notebook LM. And then we've prepared some short video use cases on a couple of different topics that we really think are going to help you understand Notebook LM's power, but then also show you how your nonprofit can use them. So what is Notebook LM? It is a free AI-powered learning assistant to help you kind of summarize, organize, and learn complex and or large amounts of information. You can load information from documents, anything from your Google Drive basically in there. If you're connected to Google Drive, you can upload things from your desktop. You can do links from the internet, even YouTube videos. So it'll take text, video, and audio files are all things you can input into Notebook LM. How can it help you? So this, we had a little talk there about grant writing. It can help you simplify grant writing. Notebook LM can become your assistant to guide you through the process, allowing you to load all the documents that are necessary for that grant upcoming. And then you can ask it specific questions regarding if there's something you should or shouldn't add into the grant for your nonprofit specifically. and then it'll tag out things, and you'll see some more of this in the videos we have upcoming that'll make more sense. This can help you understand complex information faster. It also creates an audio podcast to break down the information into digestible chunks that you can listen to anywhere. You can create it with two different podcast people, and they're talking back and forth. It's really pretty cool. And then you can also help you improve your communications on specific projects, events, programs, and more, so your team is all in alignment for better teamwork. So there's no guesswork on how to explain an event. You can just share this document out with the entire team. If you can go to the next slide, Sarah, please. So getting started with Notebook LM, it is a free tool to use right now, but you do need a Google account or Google Suite, which is also free. I'm not going to play the tutorial right now. This is in the slides just for you later on. So we will give you the slide deck at the end of the later on for your use here. So some of the key differences here. So there, like I said earlier, there's a bunch of large language models out there, LLMs. In previous Tech Talks, we've discussed ChatGPT, and we've also gone over Microsoft Copilot. So I wanted to just kind of explain to you today how those are different, since we've covered them already. ChatGPT is a tool for like brainstorming, writing, and problem solving, as it's a conversational AI tool designed to really give you like a human-like text based on specific prompts from the user. Now, Microsoft Copilot is kind of in that same vein, but it's more designed for like data analysis, collaboration, emails, and reports, and you can actually be integrated fully into your Microsoft suite of products, so you can do the task right there in whatever document you're working in and use it. You can also use it as a standalone tool in Microsoft Edge browser as well. And Notebook LM is different. It's more of a personal AI assistant to help you with complex or unknown material, to help you break it down into briefing documents, study guides, a podcast explainer, and then it'll allow you to ask follow-up questions to help you understand the information even better. So let's look at some of the key features of Notebook LM. So you can add up to 50 documents, text, audio, links, video recordings into your sources to get an overview of everything you know. You can organize this information into categories or themes. And then you have a chat dialogue, which is kind of like the ChatGPT or the Microsoft Copilot, where you can ask it further questions and break it down, and then it'll actually start suggesting questions if you can't think of anything. So this will allow you to take the complex information, make it more understandable, and make it more usable for you and your team. So go ahead and advance it, Cyrus. Now that we're talking about Notebook LM, in this video right here, Sue's going to do a quick overview of the dashboard for Notebook LM.
Here you have the Notebook LM
Perfect.
website. When you land, you'll see a few of the notebooks that I've already created. But for the purposes of today, we're going to create a new notebook. You'll do this with this blue button right here and give that notebook a name so that you can identify it later. Now, within this dashboard, you've got three main parts to your window. The first is your source window, and you'll notice here that you have a huge option of the kinds of sources that you can add to your notebook. If I click on this as if I'm going to add a source, you'll see as a natural extension of the Google Drive, you have an option of loading in Google Docs or Google Slides right from your Drive. You can also add website link or a YouTube video. You can copy and paste text directly into your notebook, or you can upload sources like a PDF document or an audio file to be able to curate a repository of information that's going to help you to be able to do whatever it is that you're going to try to do or learn from this notebook. Once you've added sources to your notebook, you have an option then to be able to use a chat window. It's going to work a lot like ChatGPT, or if you've been using Copilot, you have an option to use natural language and ask questions and interact with the materials that you've put into this notebook or repository. Have a little chat with your specific resource set. In the third window here, you have the studio features. And there's some unique things to Notebook LM. The first is that you can generate an audio overview, which is going to essentially be a podcast generated. It's an AI generated podcast. And we'll take a look at those here in just a second. But it is using the content from your sources to build that audio podcast. You also have an option to interact with your document in creating a study guide, a briefing document, a frequently asked questions guide, or a timeline, as well as any other specific notes as you interact with those resources. Now, once you create a note, if you like it a lot, you can add that note into your sources. Same with if you've worked on something in your chat and you really like that chat and where you're going with that and you want to save it for later, you can add that chat over to your notes and even over into your sources as you kind of develop it. So you can use this like your scratch paper for learning and interacting with content. We're going to show you a couple of use cases here in a second, but this is your overview of your Notebook LM interface.
All right, and now that we have the use cases going there, we're going to dive into this next video. We're going to the policies are happening right now, so we've been using it to help us break down what's happening in the policies. And this next one is more a specific one just towards education. We thought might be useful for everyone else. So go ahead and play this one, Sarah.
For this specific use case, we're actually going to show you how to create a notebook. In this case, I've got a set of policies that I want to learn a little bit more about and how they might affect our community. And I'm going to choose to add some links. I'm going to show you where my source is first. I've pulled up the link in the Washington State Legislature, and the bill that I'm interested in learning more about is one that involves looking at how school libraries build digital literacy skills, and it's Senate Bill 5551. On the bill tracker, you can actually get a link directly to the text of the bill, and we're just going to copy that website. And I can add that link directly to my notebook as a source. Just copy pasted it in there and see it's loading. And we'll go back, and I'm actually going to add the companion bill as well. In Washington State, a House and a Senate can have two versions of the bill, and they start and have to pass back and forth during the process, during the legislative process. Many times companion bills are the same, but sometimes they're different. So I'm going to grab the companion bill and do the exact same thing. Put that into my notebook. So same process here for adding the website. And now we've got House Bill 1727 and Senate Bill 5551, both loaded into my notebook. And you'll see it automatically populated a summary. It says I've got two sources. Here's the Senate bill, and here's what this is about. But I can ask it a question that says, what are the primary differences between Senate Bill 5551, House Bill 1727, and I can just chat between what's the difference between these two companion bills. You see almost immediately it's going to give me a response that the House bill has a difference in the school district size for this particular policy application, in the technical assistance priority and the partnership focus. So just nuanced differences where if I was going through the text of these bills, it might take me quite a long time to be able to pinpoint where those differences are. I can also create a study guide, a briefing document, or a frequently asked questions document with just a click of a button. In this case, I'm going to click a frequently asked question about these two specific pieces of policy. And what I get back are some specific questions that might be common about how these two policy pieces are structured and maybe some of the intent that's communicated in the bill language. You'll notice that I've got pretty general text here, and I can also use this chat to be able to explain really technical information to a really general audience. I could ask it questions like, explain this to me, as if I have no background in school policy. And it will do a really good job of being able to, kind of like a chat GPT might, give you those kind of general applications. So in this way, we've added a couple of policies to create a source repository, and we've now got the ability to interact with it and learn and actually apply it to some of the local use.
So then also you might want to know how to use this internally. So in this next example, for our STEM nights, we take a press release and break down that information. So go ahead and break that one, and Sue will break down this one even more further for you to see how to do it internally.
So one of the uses that our team is really excited about is being able to use Notebook LM to anticipate interactions with the media and some of our internal documents that we've created. Like maybe we've created a press release or marketing branding about a specific event or feature. And what I want to show you is one of the ones we recently released a press release for our Apple STEM Network Family STEM Nights in Moses Lake. Here I've loaded the press release and linked to the Apple STEM Network website as our sources, and it's going to give me a quick summary, and I have the options just as before. I can click on a briefing document. I can click on and create a frequently asked questions document, and it will help my communications and marketing outreach team to be able to talk about the event and the organization and anticipate that these are the kinds of questions that folks will ask, and we'll be ready to respond with a prompt here. And then also in the studios, kind of cool, is this audio overview. In this audio overview, they've created a two-person or two-host podcast where they are casually chatting about the event, and it gives us an opportunity to hear how the information in our press release translated across and how our event might be showing up in local media. I'll go ahead and click play so you get an idea of what this sounds like.
Okay, so are you ready to dig into some fascinating stuff today?
Always am.
All right, well, today we're doing a deep dive into the Apple STEM Network. More specifically, their work in Moses Lake, Washington.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and you might be thinking, well, why Moses?
Yeah, why?
Well, this town is really becoming a hub for the sustainable aviation fuel industry.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so think cleaner air travel and a major boost to the local economy.
And so this is a 16-minute podcast that's drawing reference from what I put in our press release. And it is something that you could download and share. It does come in a WAV file, not an MP3 file. And it's not editable in a way that you won't want to use this for a primary purpose of creating podcasts. But what it does do is help if you are trying to create a resource that you can learn material quickly or get information and pull together and hear how it might sound for a general audience. You do have an opportunity when you generate the audio overview to ask specific questions, and I would just really encourage you to play with it a little bit in terms of the input and the output. But it's a really great way, a really great feature to be able to help you think about how the resources that you're putting out there, your internal documents, are being communicated, and could be a great internal tool for development of resources and helping people understand specific resources as well.
So yeah, as you can see, it's just a great way to see how your information that you're putting together could be interpreted through the podcast portion of it and talked about throughout other communities. Also a good way to create a standardized document for your team so you can share that information as everybody's on the same page of what's being shared and how you're talking about those individual projects. For this last one, we really dove into see about say there's a new technology or there's something new coming to the community. So we focus this one around the data centers and kind of how it could impact the community and how we talk about it. So go ahead and play that one, Sarah.
So another use case for this Notebook LM is to really help your team understand maybe something new and something technical that they need to have some background and understanding about to be able to get the community impact that you're looking for. For NCW Tech Alliance, one of the things that we're working on is how to support and sustain data centers as part of our local economy in North Central Washington. And what we've done here is created a repository. We've done some research of national studies that have looked at how data centers as a part of a rural community have impacted labor market or materials and local constraints and different kinds of cost benefit analyses, and pulled all of those resources together into a repository. And over on my left here, you can see I've got 40 different sources linked into this particular notebook. You have, I think, a limit of 50 sources for any given notebook, but there are all sorts of national reports and websites and resources that are creating that resource repository. And I can ask now with normal text languages to help me understand or help me to be able to explain the local impact of a growing presence for data centers in our community. I'm going to type in or copy paste a question in here that says, what could be the advantage of supporting the development of data centers as part of North Central Washington economy? And just like before, you almost immediately get a response with some of the considerations of local economic development. So we're looking here at economic growth and job creation, tax revenue, infrastructure development, some other benefits and considerations. And I can really ask just about any question of these repositories. It's also going to give me some suggested questions here down at the bottom if I want to strategies to improve data center sustainability. What's in my repository here? And so you have an ability to do some Q&A with that curated research and to better understand this industry. Again, you have the ability to create a study guide, a briefing document, frequently asked questions, a timeline, and that audio overview.
Welcome to today's deep dive, where we'll be exploring a pretty fascinating topic, actually.
Yeah.
The potential for developing a data center industry.
Right here.
Right here in North Central Washington. We've got some really interesting articles and reports to dig into.
Absolutely.
What we really want to uncover is how this potential development could impact you.
You and your community.
The listener, yeah.
What I think is so interesting about this is that it really brings technology and economics together in a very real way.
Right.
I mean, think about it. The digital world is exploding.
I think that's maybe a good place to pause the podcast, but you can see this one's just a little bit longer. We've got quite a bit more resources, but it does a really good job of being able to evaluate in a conversational tone in a way that I can put this on in the car, put on my headsets and go for a walk and be learning from this resource repository about some of the ways that the data center industry has transformed other rural communities and be able to make that connection to the work that we're leading here in North Central Washington. So the Notebook LM in this case is helping me to learn about a technical topic and giving me a place to ask questions and process in real time, as well as really think about how those conversations might happen in community and how I can have that conversation with others. So it's really helping augment my function as a community-based organization in that way.
So as you can see, there's some different examples of how you can use Notebook LM. And I would also just suggest you're not replacing Notebook LM with ChatGPT or with Microsoft Copilot. It's really just finding the right tool for what you're trying to do at that time. So you might take the information that you get from Notebook LM, and then if you need to do some social media content or create newsletters or a press release, you might throw that into ChatGPT then, or into Copilot to start refining those processes for different things you're using. So that's it on our presentation for today. If there's some questions in here, I see there's one from Dan. The privacy concerns, obviously you should check before you use any of this into your native network. Always check to make sure there's what policies you have at your workplace. I view Notebook LM as you're pulling information from other places though. So you'd be pulling that information to really learn about a topic or something around something you're trying to explain to somebody else. But if you are using that internally off of your database, definitely check into your privacy, your policy regarding that, because every company's going to be different there. Hope that answered your question, Dan. Can record a meeting and then provide minutes. I don't know if you can record live off a Notebook LM, but you definitely, if you were taking notes or there were minutes in there, it could break all that down for you. I didn't see a live feature on there. So I don't know if that would work there, Alan. I'd have to dig more into that. I haven't used it for anything like that. What ethical considerations are there around using AI generated text in news releases, etc.? With us here at the Tech Alliance, we news releases and things like that, we're usually just grabbing it together, more information, and then you always need to go back through, check the information to make sure it's accurate, and then also you'd want to tweak it all into your own language. If you're using mostly generated AI material, you should probably make note of that in your post and things like that. When entering websites, will search all the various pages there. So I believe it was just the way we were trying it is it for the bills, it broke down all the information on that page for the bill. For specific websites, I believe it was pulling all information from the website, but if you put a specific URL in, you could tell it to focus on that page. That would be one I'd have to play more around with, but it seemed to be pretty intuitive on what it was grabbing, and I think you could have it focus down to different pages by pushing the backslash of the page or telling it to focus on specific content. There is a limit on how many resources you can add right now. It's 50 resources. I do not believe there's a limit on how many questions you can ask. You can keep refining that, and it kept putting in questions or suggestions on there. So yeah, right now all I know is there's a limit of 50 resources, and you can delete a resource and add a new resource. I'm not sure what that does for the information I was pulling, but yeah, 50 resources is still quite a few. I believe you can change the voices in the podcast. I think you could do like a guy and a girl and a girl, but I think right now it's still the same guy voice and girl voice. And those podcasts aren't something you'd want to upload like as a information, because some of the times it's more just for information and learning. It's not really for sharing you would want to share it from your company because you can't edit it. And we've noticed that some of the names around here, especially like some of the different cities, it gets those wrong. And sometimes it says funny, like it says words differently. So always check that. I think right now it's more of just a guide for you to learn on that. There's no other questions, so I'm going to mute myself. I want to thank everybody for coming out today. Sorry for the technical difficulties we had, but we will share this out. So the videos you can rewatch and get a deeper dive on that if you want to check that out.
But a big thank you to Sue for the recordings, and a big thank you to David for leading today's presentation. It's really an incredible tool, something our team is super excited about. I've got our contact information up on screen, so if you have any additional questions that come up about it, please feel free to reach out. We'd love to hear from you. And I'll also keep you updated on our next Tech Talk that'll be coming up around May. So I'll let you know when that's coming up. But thank you again for joining us today. It was so great to have you all on the webinar. Have a wonderful day, everyone.